It's about faith to believe. It's about hope to receive. It's about love to give life. It's about transplant life with me, Ms. Vinny. Hey everyone, it's Ms. Vinny. Please visit our merch store at abouttransplantlife.com. We've got some really cool items for sale, and support our efforts to raise awareness of the importance of organ, eye, and tissue donation by sharing incredible stories. So please visit our website today. That's abouttransplantlife.com. Hey everyone, it's Ms. Vinny. Please join us for our next town hall meeting on Thursday, October the 9th at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The topic, Faith in Organ Donation. How do we rebuild trust? With my esteemed panel of organ donation advocates, E. Tiffany Jones, Roxanne Watson, Kim Payne, a OneLegacy ambassador, Antonio Larkins, a heart recipient, and Sadria Strong, a Briana's Heart of Gold. That's Thursday, October the 9th at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You don't want to miss this powerful town hall meeting. See you there. Hey everyone, it's Ms. Vinny. Welcome to About Transplant Life. I am your host, Ms. Vinny, and it's Thursday, and this is what we do every single Thursday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We go live on Facebook, and we talk about transplant life. And it is our mission to empower, educate, and inspire everyone within the transplant community and beyond, because it's just good information to have, because you never know when you or someone you love may be in need of a life-saving organ transplant. And so we are here to raise awareness about the importance of organ, eye, and tissue donation. And tonight is a very special About Transplant Life, because tonight is our third town hall meeting. And our topic for tonight is faith in donation and transplant. How do we rebuild trust? And I'm sure you know that in recent months, organ donation has faced questions and criticisms that literally shook public confidence. Thousands upon thousands of people have taken their names off the donor registration list. And it all started with an article that was placed in the New York Times. But tonight, we're coming together not to avoid the hard questions, but to lean into them with faith, transparency, and hope, and hopefully to answer some questions that you may have. And we are live on Facebook. So if you have any questions in the comments, please put them in the comments and we will be sure to address them. So right now, before I introduce to you my esteemed panel of experts, recipients, and advocates, I want to share with you a video from my dear friend Tanaya Wallace that literally started this conversation, right? She is the policy expert that we all lean to when I have questions about what's going on in Washington, what's going on behind the scenes. Tanaya Wallace has all the information. And she sat down with me a few weeks ago and gave me the 411, and we put it on our YouTube channel. So check this out.
So no policy changes were made directly out of those New York Times claims, which makes me happy also, because I think, it was like the government sort of looked at this and was like, yeah, we don't want to terrify people even more. And if we stop DCD donation, it's going to kill people. So
So please make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to hear the full interview, and you really, really do, because she gets down to the nitty gritty about what's really going on with the final rule policy and all of the changes that are being made within the organ donation and transplant system that affects all of us, whether you are a donor family member, a donor, a recipient like myself, or just a concerned citizen. You need to have this information. So, and we made it available to you on our YouTube channel. So please make sure that you like and subscribe to About Transplant Life. All right. Without any further ado, I want to present to you my esteemed panelists. Okay. These are men and women who are credible messengers. They know by experience, the heart and soul of organ donation and transplant. And I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about themselves. My very first panelist that I would like to present to you is Kim Payne. Kim is a donor grandmother, and she is an advocate and an ambassador at OneLegacy. And that's how we met. And she is going to tell you more about herself right now. Please welcome my friend Kimberly Lopez Payne.
Wow, I got the old Facebook name.
Thank you
Thank you,
much,
Vinny.
thank
you for having me. It is my pleasure. The more times I get to share my grandson's story, the better I feel. So I am Kim, and I am a donor grandmother. I am a grandmother because of my daughter, who decided to make me a grandmother a little bit before I thought it was time. But you know what? God has different plans. He doesn't care about age. So a grandmother I definitely embraced, and Malachi was my world. He was born in 2010. So we were talking, I've been a grandmother for a little while, and that sweet face came into my life March 29th, 2010. And sadly, though, he left my world in August of 2011. He was only 16 months. My daughter made the brave decision to say yes to organ donation. And as I've kind of become the ambassador that I am and telling my story, it will never get old, the bravery that it takes a parent to say yes for their child to become an organ donor. As parents,
especially
you're not ready.
Age, right?
You are just not ready to say goodbye to your child. And to have that be thrown at you in such a tragic way, and for you to have to make a decision that can affect so many in such a short amount of time with zero education about it, most likely. I mean, most of us don't want to talk about death or anything surrounding it until it's too late, until it's put in front of us, or we're in a hospital room, or we're in a mortuary making plans for a loved one. And that is probably one of the things that has become most important to me since becoming an ambassador in 2017, is making sure that we are educated to make a good decision for ourselves, no matter what that decision is, no matter which way it goes. If we're educated enough about it, we know what's right for us. And to be able to share those feelings with our loved ones is so important. To be able to talk about it at the dinner table when we are of sound mind and we kind of know exactly what's right for us, and not leaving it in somebody else's hands to have to make that decision for us. So he became a donor, and he saved 4 lives. Which was the life of a 2-year-old little girl who now carries his heart all of these years later, a 9-month-old baby who received his liver, and both of his kidneys went to 2 different women. One was a 19-year-old college student, and the other one was a 63-year-old grandmother.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
You know, I never knew that a child's kidney could save an adult's life. So yeah, the things that have come since I have been an ambassador, and the information that I've gotten has really opened up my eyes to a world that I never knew possible. And it's gotten me to a place where I can talk about it without crying, which is kind of, I think, a place where we all kind of want to be, where, yes, we have our moments and yes, we have our bad days, but to be able to celebrate the legacy that our loved ones have left in a very good place and wanting to help others, I think is a great place to be.
It is a great place to be. And we're live on Facebook, and that's a great place to be. Our friend Cheryl is here.
Hey, Cheryl. We see you, girl.
A fellow OneLegacy ambassador. Thank you for joining us. Well, thank you, Kim, for sharing your story with our viewers. And we're going to move on to our next panelist. How about that?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Okay, very good. Okay, my next panelist is none other than Sadria Strong. She is a donor family member. Her daughter, Briana, made her a Donor Heroes mom. And she is the founder of Briana's Heart of Gold. And we're going to hear from her next. Welcome, Sadria Strong. Welcome to the panel.
Hello. I'm glad to be here.
Girls, you are a regular on About Transplant Life at this point.
I know.
And I'm all here for it, because you always bring us a wealth of information, and your story is just so powerful. So please tell our viewers who may not have heard your story before who you are and how you got to this space.
All right. I'm Sadria Strong, and I am the proud mother of donor hero Briana Brooks. My daughter, at the age of 21, she and her fiance were kidnapped in Decatur, and both were held for ransom and both shot. Briana was 7 months pregnant at the time. Her baby was delivered by emergency C-section. 3 days later, we were told that she was brain dead. She was declared brain dead and asked us to be donors, asked if we would donate her organs. I'd had the conversation with her years before when she got her license, and she said major organs. So it wasn't something we had to think about doing. We did it because that's what she wanted to do, and we would have done it anyway. And I always say I would have given more, knowing more and being educated about organ donation. I would have given more of Briana. She probably would have been like, I just said major organs, but I would have given more. So I'm thankful that she was able to save 4 lives, her heart, both her kidneys and liver. Her heart recipient, Amber, had 6 more beautiful years to be with her family. And we honor her as well, and that she paid it forward being a cornea donor. And so the other 3, we have the liver recipient, Andrew Hobbs, who is Uncle Andrew. And he has his own Uncle Andrew, and we love him. And the other 2 gentlemen that have received the gift, we have not heard from them, but they are still doing well. So we say prayers of long and healthy life and memories with their families. So with our nonprofit, we educate the community, get them to register to be donors, but we also register, we raise funds for her scholarship in her name because she wanted to be a doctor. So we pay it for a student that wants to go in the medical field or the sciences. And so that's a way to honor her legacy of her passion for the sciences and medical field.
And how courageous of you, Sadria, to take such a tragic situation and allow God to turn it into your purpose. And, I always tell you this, I'm so godly proud of you. Your smile just lights up the room. And I know that it's only by the grace of God that you're smiling and laughing right now after
Absolutely.
such
I'm telling you,
unexpected tragic situation, with your firstborn. I know. So thank you so much for all of the work that you continue to do and for being here today. All right. So we're gonna move on to our next panelist. And his name is Antonio Larkins. I call him a heart transplant warrior. And he is also an advocate with a long list of accomplishments, particularly with the transplant games. And so let's hear from Antonio. We call him Tony. He's Tony number 2 around here. prodigal son Tony is Tony number one. How you doing, Antonio?
I'm doing terrific. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much from the bottom of my new heart for all the support that you have shown me for About Transplant Life. You know, every time I do a show, I see your name in the comments and it just makes my heart glad. So thank you for being one of our expert panelists today. Please tell our viewers a little bit about yourself.
Okay. My name is Antonio Tony Larkins. I am a 10-year heart transplant recipient. 10 years ago, I received the gift of life through a heart transplant at Piedmont Hospital. I will never forget the mixture of fear, hope, and gratitude I felt when I woke up with a new heart beating inside me. A heart that came from someone else's generosity in their final moments.
Mm-hmm.
That gift changed everything for me, but it also
Mm-hmm.
began a journey that has tested my faith, my body, and my spirit in ways I could never have imagined.
Yeah.
Not long after my transplant, I faced 2 episodes of rejection. Each time my body was fighting against the very heart that was keeping me alive. The most terrifying moment came in 2018 when my heart stopped completely. For 59 minutes, the doctors and nurses fought for my life to keep my heart going.
Mm. But look at you now, Antonio. You were a part of the transplant games. Look at you being a transplant warrior. Tell us about all the medals I see you wearing.
But you know what? By all accounts, I shouldn't be here. But
I know.
By the grace of God, I am.
Yes, you are.
The second rejection was just as frightening. I was told I would likely need another transplant, which is something no patient ever wants to hear. But through a combination of medication, medical care, and most importantly, prayer, my heart stabilized, and against all odds, I'm still carrying that same transplanted heart. So this journey has taught me so much. It has taught me that life is fragile, but also incredibly resilient. It has taught me that faith and medicine can work hand in hand, that prayer and perseverance can carry through the darkest times. And it has taught me gratitude on a level I can hardly put into words.
Absolutely.
So 10 years later, I'm still here. And every day I thank God for that.
I thank God for you too. And I'm a heart transplant recipient as well. And 10 years ago, I received a second chance at life. So I totally understand how you feeling at this moment. Thank you so much, Antonio, for sharing your story with our viewers. And we are going to get started with our town hall meeting. And as I said, the topic is faith in organ donation and transplant. How do we rebuild trust? That's the critical question. Okay, and so we are going to get started right now with my expert panelists. There y'all are. Y'all ready? Okay, let's see who's first. Payne. Here's your question. As a donor grandmother and active OneLegacy ambassador, how does sharing your story of giving life through tragedy help rebuild trust in the donation system? What do you say?
Well, faith just means so many different things to so many different people. And I have to admit that when my grandson was murdered, my faith was shook. And the thing that I've learned since becoming an ambassador is that sometimes our faith is misplaced, or our lack of faith is sometimes misplaced. My faith in organ donation has never wavered. I believe that it saves lives, not only by the means of the recipient, but it saved my life. It's given me a platform to talk about the beautiful legacy that my grandson left. It's brought me a whole community of people that have become much easier to talk to than some of my own family members and friends. And I get that it's not because of their lack for trying. It is very hard to comprehend the kind of tragic loss that I and my family have endured. But sometimes I think when we think about losing our faith in something, it's misplaced. The thing about organ donation is it relies so much on so many different moving pieces to happen to be successful. And I think that's really especially true for recipients. I mean, the transplant center, and you need to rely on someone to say yes. You need a match. You need so much to happen for you guys to get that call. And for donor families, I think for many, I think they say yes, or their loved one that has passed has said yes, and they have this journey that they walk through of organ donation, but it's somewhat short because maybe for them, after their loved one has passed and donated, their journey kind of ends there because maybe it's something that they don't want to know more about, or they don't even think that there's this whole world that revolves around organ donation, that there is even something to look into, which is something that I didn't know about until, quite a few years after Malachi had passed. And once you make that connection in finding that there is an OPO out there who cares about donor families, and that there is a community of people that are just waiting to meet you, and they don't even know it yet. And there are other things that we then put our faith in, which is our faith in the community, our faith in the OPO, our faith in the recipients who received our loved ones' organs. And, going into it, I never really knew that it was a possibility to possibly meet one of the organ recipients of Malachi's organs. Never knew it was a possibility. But when I became an ambassador, wow, was my eyes open to, are you kidding me? Someone might want to meet our family and say thank you. And what do they have to thank us about? Like it just really opens up your eyes to this whole new world. And now you're left to put your faith in the community that you are now surrounded by, your faith in the process and how that works. And for me personally, I know I have always verbally inquired about meeting the recipients, but never was able to put pen to paper. And once that finally happened, it just really opens up your eyes to the other side, which I think sometimes is hard to see the other side because you're not in it. I just think that if we educate ourselves enough, and we as ambassadors educate the community by sharing our personal experiences, it just continues to grow the faith in the community that we have. Being honest, when my daughter said yes to organ donation, my husband was not happy about it. He did not want really anything to do with allowing his grandson to be cut up, and some of the myths that he grew up around knowing about organ donation. And as I started to get educated, I thought it was so important to educate him as well. And it wasn't until 2017, which was 6 years later, when he met a tissue recipient And that tissue recipient came up to him and thanked him. And my husband was like, what are you thanking me for? It wasn't, I had nothing to do with it. And it wasn't my grandson who saved you. And he didn't understand like how we as a community are all somehow connected and woven together. And that a thank you for one donor family is a thank you for all donor families. And that day, he came home and he was like, is this something my grandson has done? And I said, yes, babe. Your grandson saved not only the lives of those 4 specific people, but he saved those families from having to say goodbye to their loved one when they thought it was very near. He saved those friends who now get to have more time with their friends. And he really didn't quite grasp it until a tissue recipient came up and said, no, I now get to spend time with my kids because someone like your family said yes. And in that moment, he finally made that connection, and his faith was then restored in the whole organ donation world. And for everybody, it's a different reason, and it's a different moment, and it's a different journey. And I think a lot of us have ebb and flows in, did we make the right decision? Was this really right for us? And oh my God, I can't believe what we've done and the impact we've had. Like, it's such an ebb and flow that sometimes it's really hard to kind of grasp like the bigger picture. But when I get to share Malachi's story and how it started off with such an ugly day, and such an ugly, ugly place that we were in, and to now be surrounded by people who understand, to now be surrounded by people who don't ask me, why are you still crying about this? People who don't bat an eyelash when they know I'm having a bad day or I'm missing him, or still talking about him 14 years later. To be surrounded by that community has put me in a place where I am okay with the journey that has been put in front of me. Because for a long time, I was really mad at God. Really, really mad at him. But I
God
know
has a way of taking tragedy and turning it into a triumphant victory.
Yeah, and it takes time to see that. It really does take time to see that. But walking this journey with the support that I've had from my ambassador friends and even OneLegacy staff has really put me in a place to accept that this wasn't only the journey that was meant for me, but it was Malachi's journey that was meant for him. He was probably put on this earth to save the 4 people that he saved. And I have to be okay with that. And I am, because to know that he brought joy to other families has brought joy to me. And the thing that I have grown most fond of is hearing other people who are new to their grief tell me that, wow, I hope I can someday be where you're at. Like, I now know that I'm on the path that I was supposed to be on. So faith and donation, it's such a broad question because there's just so many facets and so many areas that you have your faith in when it comes to organ donation, the people, the OPOs, and the process, and the recipients. There's just so much that we put our faith into that we kind of have to hope that we can just see the sunlight at the end of the tunnel. And that's what I do every morning. Is I hope that there is a bigger picture that I am not yet aware of. And every day that I move forward, I think it starts to come to focus just a little bit more.
Kimberly Lopez Payne, that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your perspective on what faith and trust and donation means to you. We really appreciate that. We're live on Facebook. Tony says that was amazing. And I agree with you, Tony.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I want to encourage you guys, if you have comments or questions out there in Facebook land, put them in the comments. We want to hear from you. All right. Thank you so much, Kimberly. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, our next panelist is none other than Antonio Larkins. And let me give you your question, Antonio, as I bring you on the platform. You ready? Here we go. As someone who has directly benefited from organ donation, how do you respond to people who are now hesitant to register as donors? How do you respond to that? Unmute yourself. There you go.
I'm sorry. Okay. Well, first of all, I understand the hesitation. Organ donation is very personal. When you, I think when you lose something, and it's hard to really accept it.
You mean when you lose someone?
When you lose someone, yes.
Okay.
It's the hesitation is, I mean, I like what's going on now with the news. It's more of trusting and having faith that the organs or what everything is supposed to go according to plan. When someone loses trust, which is going on now, I mean, it's hard to gain trust, but it's easy to lose it in a second. I know for a fact if for me personally, if someone breaks my trust, it's hard for me to get it back. It's very hard. So the hesitation is understandable. But we have to remember this. If we have this gift, I look at it like this. I'm still alive because someone said yes. You know, they thought that when they were gone, they could leave a legacy. My faith got me to that point. When I was there near death, I didn't give up because my faith kept me strong. Now, I had to trust the doctors to do what they were supposed to do. But the main thing was, for me, was I had to have faith in that doctor. And I had to pray to God that the doctor is going to do the right thing. I know that getting on the transplant list is a process. You go from one status to another. It's based on more than what people really understand. You have to be in good health. If you get the call and you have a fever, you know, it's not going to happen. So once again, the trust has to come from the doctors as well as the patient. Me, when I had my LVAD, I was very compliant. I was so compliant because my biggest fear was, one, I wasn't going to survive. And two, if I didn't do what the doctors asked me to do, they were not going to take me seriously. So
you wore a left ventricular assist device, the LVAD, the external pump. How long did you wear that?
I wore it for 1 year and 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah, I went back to work 30 days after I received it. And I had no issues. A lot of times the biggest issue with LVADs is people get infections. But once again, I looked at it like this. I had a second chance on life. That machine was not going to slow me down. It didn't stop me from working. I went on acting normal. And this is what I tell people. God does not bless you to make you a less of a person. He blesses you to make you better each time so you can show your light. So I never never been a complainer, but I acted like things were going on normal with my LVAD. People were like, what's that? It gave me a conversation. It opened up the door for transplant. Now, at that time, I was not even expecting a transplant. My process was, well, one, there's a whole bunch of people on the list for a heart. Two, I'm doing very well with my LVAD, very well. And I've heard of people having it for a number of years. But when I got the call, that really changed my whole life, because I knew at that second, someone was giving up their life for me. And that was a hard thing to accept.
So because you have received a second chance at life, let's address the question. How do you respond to someone who may say, I'm not going to, become a registered organ donor? You've done a lot of tabling events for all of the organizations that you represent, even Briana's Heart of Gold, right? So what do you say to someone who says, I'm going to heaven with all my parts? What do you say?
Well, one of the first things I tell them, just because you become an organ donor does not mean you're going to be an organ donor.
That's
it's
right.
Only 1%. It's the way you die. So that's the first step. It's not like it's going to happen as soon as you die. Okay. Secondly, if you could give a second chance for someone else to live, and sometimes I use myself as an example. I was 5%, could have been dead and gone. I'm 10 years later. I've given back to the community. I give back to my church. I give back. God has blessed me in these last 10 years in ways that I wouldn't even imagine that I could have done, because someone else gave me that chance. So I would tell someone, if you're hesitant about it, research about it, but look at it like this. The person that you could save, it could be a child, it could be a woman, it could be the next president of the United States. Because when we're gone, only thing we're going to have left is our legacy. Our body is not going to heaven. Our spirit is. God is going to reward us on our works on earth. So it's not after that, it doesn't matter. So I try to do everything I can to get to heaven. And if that means sacrificing my life for my fellow man, that shouldn't be a second thought, because I want you to experience the same thing that God has offered me. So don't be hesitant over that. Just think about, I kind of put it like this. Until it really truly affects you, it's like cancer. Until cancer hits your family, it's not a big deal. But why wait for that when we know that people are 100,000 people on the list, and they could be saved, really, truly. So just
by saying yes, isn't that right?
Just say yes.
Just by saying that one simple word could change 8 lives, you guys. So make sure that you say yes to organ donation, because not only did it save my life, it saved my friend Antonio Larkins' life. Thank you so much, Antonio, for answering that powerful question for us today. All right. Now, my next panelist is none other than Sadria Strong. And here is your question, my dear.
Okay.
Boom. How can nonprofits amplify the voices of recipients, donor families, and faith leaders to create a more transparent and inclusive narrative around organ donation?
All right.
What is your response?
So for me, nonprofits play a vital role in bridging the gap between awareness and understanding about organ donation. They build a narrative rooted in trust, compassion, inclusivity. Nonprofits can center the voice of the most deeply connected to the journey: recipients, donor families, and faith leaders. Faith leaders is a big, huge component that is really missing, especially in the minority community. Giving them the platform to share the truth. We need to be able to share those truths in those settings. First, with storytelling from dignity and diversity, For me personally, I uplift the voices of the recipients, like my daughter's liver recipient, Andrew Hobbs, who himself has created his own nonprofit to educate his community about organ donation and encouraging them to not be fearful of it, to get the education they need, to register, and to share with their family and friends that decision to be a donor. He has been so grateful for that. We also, personally, as a nonprofit, we have our newsletter. So our newsletter, we try to amplify those stories of those needing, a transplant, or those that receive the gift of life, donor families. We try to blend that in to be able to share those stories beyond outside our state. So we have people that subscribe to our newsletter to hear Briana's story, to hear what we do for her legacy with the scholarship. And then we also try to work with community leaders, our community events. We have tabling events with my local community where we have a big bright yellow tent, Briana's Heart of Gold, with QR codes, like come to the table, have the conversation, because people will come up to the table. They'll see organ donation, they back away. But I'm good at like, hey, what are you walking away from? Let's talk.
Why do you think they back away? Let me ask you that.
Organ donation. They're scared that, look, I'm not giving up my organs. They're not going to save my life if I get in an accident. That is the number one reason. And so I share Briana's story so that they understand that it has to be like Tony had stated before, not everybody that registers as an organ donor will be one. It is the fact that you are giving that commitment and that trust that you want to leave a legacy to help somebody else who needs that life-saving organ. And knowing how many lives can be saved. Like, I wish Briana was able to save more lives. She was able to save those 4. I've been a donor since I've had my license, and knowing more, I told my son everything. Like, he already knows. Take it all. Ligaments, whatever you can find, tissue, take it all. But it's important that we have those conversations. And I try to have real conversations with people, especially those that come. People will come to me. I have some that are confrontational, to be like, I don't believe in what you're doing. Because I had a friend that, this happened. They shared the story with me, but I have to check them on that story because there's some untruths in that story, because I've been through it personally. So I can tell you exactly the process and how it happens. No one is chasing you down for those organs, and no one chased me down for organs. They were very respectful. The doctors were there trying to save my daughter's life. The nurses, it was 3 days. They were trying to find a way to see if there was some hope of some brain activity for her. And because there was none, and they did that test more than once. So I know, and they had faith, because I told them when they said they were going to do that brain test, I said, I have faith. I'm going to get a miracle. And I prayed for a miracle. But you know what? I didn't pray a specific prayer. I just said, I need a miracle. But that miracle did happen for 4 people. So by doing that, the doctor said, look, we had, when you told us you had that faith, we ran that test again because we wanted to see some kind of life. But I said, you know what? There is life. And for Briana, I didn't want her to be just a victim of gun violence. I wanted her life to mean more than that her light shines brighter than what took her from this earth. And she shines bright. Her spirit is around us all the time. And so I think it's important to continue to reach out to those faith leaders and to say, hey, usually they don't want to talk about it unless it affects one of their parishioners. Somebody is needing let's raise, awareness for our parishioner, our congregant that's, needing a life-saving organ, when that opportunity has been brought to you before. Let's take a step ahead. Let's connect together, and have these events, So anytime I have an opportunity to do an event, whether it's with a church or anyone, I want to be there. I want to be out there in a community. So I'm not just in my community. I go to other counties and have a table to share with people about Briana's story, and says, ask them, what do you know about organ donation? Let me share with you, because I've been there. So I know exactly what you're looking for, what you want to know, and if I don't know, I'm gonna direct you to where you need to go get that information.
That's absolutely right. And your story is full of miracles. The fact that your granddaughter survived that day is a miracle.
She is
right?
celebrated birthday 11 this year. I am so proud of her, and she is definitely a miracle because her doctor met me years ago at a speaking event. He came up to me. He delivered her. I didn't know who he was. He says, "I can't believe your granddaughter's alive." He says, "I delivered her. I knew your daughter wasn't going to survive, and I really didn't think your granddaughter was going to survive either." He said, "I had to go deliver another baby." So when he saw my granddaughter, he was like just shocked. And I said, that's a miracle. I said, that's God's gift to me. He's blessed with me so much. It's 3 grandchildren. The 4 people that have received her gift are family. Like I told Andrew, when I got a chance to meet him, he told Lifelink, "Hey, I need to meet Miss Strong." And so when he met me, and I peeped around that corner at the conference room, and he embraced me and kept saying, "I just want to be worthy of the gift, Miss Strong. I just want to be worthy." I said, "You are worthy of the gift because you received it. Because if it wasn't for you, you wouldn't have received it." I said, "That is your blessing." I said, "Now I don't want to hear you say I want to be worthy of the gift anymore, because you are." So that right there. So
we're live on Facebook, and Tony has a question. He wants to go back to that faith leaders. He said, "Why are faith leaders hesitant, in your opinion?"
It's a combination of the fear. There's still fear about organ donation. They don't want to cause fear within their congregation, because you'll have people that will say, "No, we don't want to hear about that. How can you get on your platform, on that pulpit, and talk about organ donation?" The history, of course, when it comes to our community, when it comes to trusting the medical community, doctors and nurses. But for me, on a personal level, having faith and trust in organ donation means opening up your heart to the idea that life can be shared. And it's choosing to love over fear, hope over uncertainty, and believing that even in sorrow, something good can grow. It's knowing that our gift, the gift that we receive, is a part of divine plan that connects lives in extraordinary ways. So I tell people, faith reminds us to love, that love never dies. Trust reminds us that it can live on through others. And so through Briana's story, that was my trust in knowing that she was going to be taken care of, and she was. And they were very respectful of her body, and the team that recovered her organs. I met one of the nurses at a hospital event, and she was like, "I always want to know what happened to this young woman." Because when I saw her face on that screen, I knew who she was. And she said, "We prayed before we recovered your daughter's organs." And they didn't even know I was a woman of faith, but they prayed before they did that. So I'm thankful for that. So the divine connection of people.
The divine connection, indeed.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Sadria, for sharing that. Now I have a question for all of my panelists. So let's bring everybody on the stage. Has that been good so far? That was really, really good. How you feel about that, Facebook? I need you guys to make comments. Let my panelists know how they encouraged you today. Okay, so our final question, and I need each of you to answer this question. What message of faith, hope, and action would you leave with the public to inspire them to trust again in the gift of organ donation? And Kim, we'll start with you.
Let's see. Can you repeat the question one more time? I want to make sure I'm answering your question, and I want to stay on point.
What message of faith, hope, or action would you leave with the public to inspire them to trust again in the gift of organ donation?
One of the things I really saw running through all 3 of our answers is we love to share our story. And I think that is the main thing that is really going to gain people's trust is by listening to real people with real stories, because we're not just an employee. We're not just someone who is paid to talk about organ donation and how it saves lives. And I think if we continue to tell our stories, I know whenever I share Malachi's story, a lot of the response is, I'm going to share Malachi's story. And that is what I always encourage people that I have interaction with is, you better remember Malachi. And I hope you pay that story forward so that someone else can learn about Malachi's journey, and that ripple effect will continue to keep giving. And so that is usually my request to people that I come in contact, whether it's tablings or hospital education, especially nurses. I say, you remember my grandson. You remember my 15 minutes here with you, and you continue to share his story.
Share the story. See, that's what we do on About Transplant Life. I love that response. We share incredible stories, like the story of Malachi and the story of Tim Payne. Thank you so much. Okay, Sadria, how do you respond to that question? What message of faith, hope, or action would you leave with the public to inspire them to trust again in the gift of organ donation?
One sentence. It's, in faith we give, in hope we receive, in love we live on. That is something that when people have gone through it, I've met people that have gone through saying no to organ donation. And after hearing Briana's story, like Kim said, they say, I wish I would have been able to donate my loved one instead of saying no. She said it was a moment of anger, and sometimes we have to have that faith, in that moment of loss, going through that loss, we have to know that love can live on for our loved one. So,
very good. Antonio Larkins, how do you respond to the question? What message of faith, hope, or action would you leave with the public to inspire them to trust again in the gift of organ donation?
Well, I would say the faith part, trust in God. I believe if we trust in God, everything's going to be all right. Now, the trust part, I believe there needs to be more transparency. If you don't know, you don't know. Organ donation is a mystery to a lot of people because it's not out in the public eye. Education. Education is key. Usually when we're working tables, and like I said, we say organ donation, some people think it's about donating money instead of organ donation. So the education, and then the key is we have to get the faith-based community involved more than, so there are a lot of people on dialysis in a lot of our churches. And
that's
a lot
right.
Of it
you better say that.
Yeah,
that is the truth.
It could be prevented. It's our people. We have to be proactive. So I believe the key thing is transparency, trusting in God, but most importantly, let's educate more.
Absolutely. That is very, very, very good. Very, very good. Thank you so much. Let's see if we have any more comments or questions. Anthony is blowing us up today. Thank you so much for being a part of our town hall meeting. He's the only one with questions, and that's good. Anthony is my executive producer. I can't do anything without him. And I really want to, make sure that you saw this, Sadria. My friend Galen Thomas, I think you're a liver transplant, I believe. She was on our panel, and she says that your daughter would be very proud of the work that you are doing. Tony has an answer to the question. What did he say? Let's try. Let me take this off. My answer would be to become an organ donor so that someone gets more time. Because of organ donation, I got more time with my mom. That's me. 24 years would not have been enough for me. Organ donation gave me another 10. And now I need tissue. And that's just the truth. That makes it real on a whole nother level, right? And that's why I fought to survive. And with that, I want to share my closing comments with you before we go. Check this out. Hey everyone, it's Miss Vinny. I am a grateful heart transplant recipient, and I stand as living proof of what faith, compassion, and teamwork can do when lives are on the line. As we close tonight's About Transplant Life town hall meeting, I want to thank every voice on this panel tonight for your compassion and your courage. We know that trust in the transplant system has been tested, but this is our moment to rise, to lead with transparency, to rebuild faith, and to remind the world that truth and transparency helps to save lives just as much as medicine does. When we lead with honesty and compassion, people will trust again. Faith keeps us moving when the mountain seems unmovable. Hope reminds us that miracles still happen. And love is the heartbeat of everything we do. Every donor, every recipient, every caregiver, every nonprofit, together, you form the heartbeat of this very important mission. To our leaders and organizations, don't just manage the system, humanize it. Bring patients, donor families, and advocates into the conversation. Let their stories shape policy and progress. Because when compassion and accountability work together, transformation begins. And to everyone still waiting for that life changing call, we see you, we honor you, and we will not stop fighting for you. Hold on to your faith. Your miracle is still possible. Let's go forward with faith, hope, and love, restoring trust, rebuilding transparency, and reigniting unity. Because when we work together with truth and compassion, transplant life becomes stronger than ever. Thank you to my esteemed panelists, my guests today. You all were excellent. And Tony got me all messed up. I don't know what to say at this point, but I'm just so grateful to be alive. And it's because someone said yes to organ donation by the grace of God. We're all here, right? And because we've been given so much, I just believe that it is our responsibility to share the message of faith, hope, and love with everyone we come in contact with by sharing our stories and helping others to understand the importance of organ, eye, and tissue donation. So thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate all of you. Thank you to my beautiful, wonderful Facebook family out there. You guys are awesome. And we will see you next week because we go live every Thursday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks for watching. Peace.